Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today I'm thrilled to introduce my friend and legendary copywriter, Adil Amarsi. Adil has done over $1 billion in sales for his clients in a stellar 15-year career. Starting at just 12 years old and going pro at 18, Adil has mastered the art of copywriting across 400 plus niches. He's not only generated massive sales, but also mentored top names in advertising. Currently, Adil focuses on consulting and mentoring, sharing his vast knowledge through the Copywriting Mastery mentoring program. And I've asked him to join us here today to share his story plus the secrets behind his incredible success. Adil, thank you so much for joining us today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I just need to correct that ever so slightly. The CMMP, because I've got to update my LinkedIn, my CMMP program, we shut that down last year, unfortunately.
Oh, got it.
But I do have a private mentoring program that I do have. So people can reach out to me and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But dude, it's so good to see you. I'm glad that you reached out to me. And for the people that don't know, Daryl and I go back a long time. Like when you were still living in Canada, long. That's how long ago it was. This is before he found Asia and found people down here. He was still single when I met him.
It's been a long road, and it's been great to watch the journey. And part of this call, even now, we'll have to have him come back. We're short on time because when we catch up, we just keep catching up.
Yeah, we never hit record. To be honest, if you actually ever saw this recording, if we recorded the last half hour, first it would be confidential, but like the first half hour, we're just talking and just catch up. And our other brother Josh was here, so it's awesome.
So, but how did you even get into this? Starting copy, I don't know your origin story. So how did you even get into this at such a young age? Was your dad and your mom, were they copywriters too, or is this?
It's because like I had 3 different career paths at the age of 12 that I wanted to pursue. So like at the age of 12, I knew those 3 things I wanted to do in my life. It was either I wanted to be a comedian because I made a promise I wanted to make one person laugh every day, because Daryl knows a little bit about my childhood and like some of the ups and downs I went through. And with my childhood and our kinds of childhoods, you find solace in humor or in anger. And I found solace in both. The humor was I loved making people smile because it made me feel good. And the anger was I wanted to do Thai boxing, which I did. And I was like, this is the rest of my life. This is the career I want. And the third career was I wanted to be an artist. But I was told at a young age, like at 11 or 12, like my art teacher told me, you're good at art, but he was trying to make me draw in his way. And I didn't like it. So I don't like being told what to do. I'm like, give me the creativity to just create. And
right. That's the whole point.
Stifled. Yeah. So around this time as well, because a few years prior to that, before I came to the school when I was 12, or 11, my parents had been sat down and told by my teacher, hey, listen, from my previous school, your kid's smart, but he writes really slowly. And if he writes really slowly, he's got a perfectionism to him. If he keeps doing this, he's going to get left behind at secondary school or middle school for the US. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So my dad just started getting me to write every single day, like just stories. And as I created these stories, my parents separated and my dad started an import-export business. So he used to get me to still go over to his company after school, and he would just say, write about whatever's around. So I'd look at one of his products and I'd write a story about how that thing existed in its own life. And I just had to get creative with it. Now, that was part of my background. The other part of my background is before the age of 7, I was exposed to Billy Mays and the Home Shopping Channel. 2 hours a day, 6 days a week for 2 years.
Who, your dad or your mom? Why?
My dad loved the Home Shopping Channel, but my dad was also paralyzed during that time for 2 years. Like it's a miracle to say the least, because he had a neurological condition around the same age I am now, which is 34. He was 33, 34 when this happened. His legs stopped working. Like in his early 30s, his legs just completely stopped working. He couldn't stand on them, and it was only in his thigh, not the rest of his foot was working, his calf was working, but his thigh was dead. And he couldn't stand on it. Like as soon as he stood on it, he'd fall. 2 years into that, he was miraculously able to walk again. They said they should never be able to walk. He was walking. And of course, at that point, my dad had just indoctrinated me into watching trivia games, stretching my mind, understanding words and numbers, and then really looking at it from like the Home Shopping Channel and learning how to sell, because I wanted to watch cartoons. So I'd watch whatever my dad was watching so I could watch cartoons afterwards. Anyway, back to me at 12, 13 years old. Parents are separated at 13. They get back together by the time I'm 15. But I've got this habit. So every day I'm just writing, and I wanted to be a musician as well. So I started writing lyrics and poetry and just every form of creativity I can get my hands into. Fast forward to the time I'm 18, I get injured. I have a spinal injury at this point because of Thai boxing. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks, which as an 18-year-old is very scary.
Right.
At this point, I basically left school at 17, started a job because I wanted to turn 18 and start this network marketing company. Turned 18 after my back injury, ended up going whole hog into the network marketing company, built the network marketing company. The guy that was my upline, he was a friend of mine. Key term was we had a bit of a falling out because egos be egoing. And I can rub people the wrong way just by simply being myself without meaning to. It's just, I'm not, how do I put it? I was unconsciously confident in my abilities and it made me come off like a dick because I
Right.
was really insecure and I never did it intentionally. But at the same time, I've learned how to master it now as an adult and it's actually fine. But like at the time, it was, you
Right.
didn't know what was going on. So at that point, I get introduced to Frank Kern and the 4-day cash machine because it was Mass
Mm.
Control 2.0 was launching. By the way, the greatest video sales letter, in my opinion, is the Mass Control 2.0 launch. Like nothing has come close to it, in my opinion. It's succinctly perfect. It's a 20-minute perfect sales video, not an ounce of fat on it. It's just such a great freaking video. Anyway, I watched that. I'm on Kern's list. I'm 18. I have no money. I have no way of buying Mass Control 2.0, even though I really want it. I get introduced to John Carlton off of the emails. I end up basically falling in love with John Carlton's blog. And
Mhm.
there's a comment I wrote there when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, because I followed his blog for 3 years. It was because of John I actually learned how to write copy properly. So I learned from his blog.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I did, and then I was exposed to Dan Kennedy, Jay Abraham, Gary Halbert, all these legends. And it's funny because Laurie Morgan, as in Red Hot Marketing,
Hmm.
years later, like years, I'm talking like a good 10, 12, 13 years later, in the CMMP, the Copywriting Mentoring Mastery Program, we end up having her as a coach, as one of our coaches that would teach other copywriters how to write. And I remember talking to her and going, I've been like one of your biggest fans, like the good part of my career. And she goes, I had no idea. I was like, yeah, I showed her everything. And she was like, holy crap. So like we become the best of friends. Like we just message each other all the time.
Aw.
I've done like trainings for her group. It's always fun. So that's basically how I got into it. But what kept me in was my utter obsession with how people think.
Mm.
And copywriting was nothing more than applied psychology because I went down the stand-up comedy route. I went professional. I did that. And I had a choice between doing stand-up comedy or writing. And at the time, there was a couple of situations that happened in my life that kind of depressed me. So I walked away from stand-up comedy and just stayed in the writing world to make money. And then it just
Right.
continued. And the martial arts thing I had to give up because my back went and then my knee started going. And when you're 19, 20 years old and you're starting to get really serious injuries that could be life, I
Yep.
was like, I'm not going to do that. So I took up jujitsu instead and I did that for a while and then I got injured and then I decided to wait for a little bit, but it's all good. So basically my story for copywriting is I fell into this and then I just got utterly obsessed with how people think and how copywriting was applied psychology.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, any tips for people that are here that are starting out or struggling and they figured out that they're a technician and they're good at doing what they do, but they suck at getting and keeping customers,
Okay. So
primarily the getting of them?
this really just comes down to a couple of things. What is their messaging? That's the first place I always tell people. What are you trying to tell people? Because a confusing message is hard to come by. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine who is really good, but he has an offer he has two offers with the same name that do two very vastly different things.
Mm.
One gets you a certain result within a 90-day period. Another one gives you the skills over 90 days to actually get whatever result you want, but with multiple different iterations of what it could be. I'm trying to be vague about it because I don't want to give it away just yet, but essentially he's not clear. And
Right.
in an offer, because his audience is not clear, it's not converting. That's number one, get clear on your offer. Number two, stop copying people. Like the
Mhm.
amount of times there's, oh yeah, I want you to write a sales letter in the voice of Adil Amarsi. I want you to do a campaign like Adil Amarsi. I want you to do this like Gary Halbert. I want you to do this like blank. Don't do that. Be yourself. Like literally the biggest thing you can actually do for your business is allow yourself to be you. Be unhinged. Be a little bit crazy. Have those areas in there so people can actually know and trust you, because the reality is if you have friends in real life, people who actually like you in real life and value you, then you're doing something right. Just do that online and
Mm.
people will come to you. That's the reality. The whole thing is just basically, why do people like me in real life? Let's do more of that. Which sounds like the most obvious thing to say to someone, but we all do it where we're like, I'm gonna try and be like special marketing man.
That's right. When someone goes to write an email, they start writing in professional speak. I actually had someone disqualify themselves to be my client. Maybe someone might argue with me, but I have a cold for some of the agency services
Right.
that I do. I have a cold email campaign that kind of runs like clockwork. And I had someone reply though, saying, hey, I'm not interested, which is fine. But they said,
One,
not interested. By the way, I don't know if saying sending love is appropriate in a professional email.
go shut
And
up.
and I was like, that's, if I have to err, I'm going to err on the side of sharing love and being friendly versus,
You know what? If someone said like with love, I'd write back saying with disdain, like with disdain, Daryl. And they're like, tell me not to love you, so I'm going to disdain you. That's fine.
yeah, but that's almost what you're saying. You don't want to be for everyone, I think is an important thing. Yeah.
There is a way to be around it. Like I have friends like Ben Settle who are just very magnanimously like contrarian. They're like, no, I have my views and whatever it is. Then there's people, you could be like me. Like Daryl knows me quite well and I know him quite well. 80% of who I am is a version of me that most of you will never see. And that's intentional. And that's because I want you guys to only see who I am in my workspace. And it's all me. Like it is me. Like my mindset, my ups, my downs, my struggles, my highs, my everything is there. The stuff I don't share is the stuff that's important to me. I don't talk about my relationships. I don't talk about what I do on the side. I don't talk about the charitable stuff I do. I don't talk about any of the stuff that I do outside of that simply because it's not necessary. Like the people that know me, like if you become a client, yes, you get access to all these different sides of me, but until you're a client, you don't really need to know that side of me because it doesn't make sense to you. Like for instance, one of my junior writers that I have as a mentee right now that I'm mentoring, he's single, doesn't have a girlfriend, but wants to have a girlfriend. I wrote a lot of the stuff in the dating industry over the last 15 years. If you read anything from like companies like RSD, Adam Lyons, those kinds of guys, like any of the pickup world, and then anything that came in after like daygame.com or even stuff with Ryan Black or like with stuff with just name a company. Or even Matthew Hussey. So there is one way or another I've either influenced them directly or indirectly through my writers and people just to basically help them grow their business. And a lot of the concepts they use are ones that basically came from me. That's quite cool because it's all copywriting in its own way. So when this guy comes to me, I'm not going to go around talking about my dating prowess with him and what I've done publicly because for me that's not it's a bit too crass for me to talk about in my world from what my world views, like my perspective. But when I'm talking to someone that's a mentee that's, hey, I keep going on bad relationships, or hey, I don't have time for a relationship, I really want to be with someone. I'm like, you're 20, you're in your 20s. Let me give you some advice to make that easier for you as someone that's a little bit older, that's done a lot of the stuff and seen the successes and pitfalls, especially in this career. Let me help you around that because there's so much there. Key is number one, get clear on stuff. Number two, make sure you show who you are to a degree. Be aware of how you cultivate that image within people around you so they understand what's going on. The third thing I'll tell you to do, especially with the getting side, is know what your story is, not just your core story, but there is a thing called the story selling matrix that I developed, which I'm going to give you guys right now. It's really simple. On one side of just get a sheet of paper, turn it 90 degrees to the side, so it's horizontal, draw a line right through the middle, and put two massive goalposts on either side of the piece of paper. And that's going to be on the left-hand side, my beginning / what kicked my ass. On the right-hand side, why I won't give up / my point of no return. And on either side of these, on the left-hand side where it's like, what kicked my ass, you basically go, what was it that actually is driving me right now? What is my driver? Is it that someone made fun of me? Is it because I need to prove something? Is it because someone actually hurt me? Is it because someone said that like I would never succeed? What is it that's helping me drive? And then on the right-hand side, look at the last point of no return that you crossed, like the last bridge you crossed, like Dal, if I asked you right now, the last bridge you crossed, what would it be? And by this, there is no way I can go back to the previous version of Daryl. You have that. What would that be? What would that even look like? Just as a snapshot concept.
That'd probably be when I came to the Philippines. We talked about someone I'm working with right now, Michael Gerber, the author of E-Myth. And a lot of what he's doing is because of his name and the brand that he built. And I feel like I had a book hit #1 on Amazon. I helped someone do a couple of $1 million in under 8 months. I then went and did that with 2 more people. And in some ways, I had a waiting list of clients wanting to work with me. And I went to Asia feeling maybe a little entitled, like I had people would adjust their time zone schedule to work with me. And I'm very much like a rise with the sun, follow the sun kind of schedule guy. So I wouldn't work overnights being in Asia. And then being unavailable made it that didn't matter. And all of a sudden, I had to really dig into like the offer and what I'm going to help people with. And that was like a distinctive thing. It was like, how do I do business without my name, without my
Yeah.
reputation, without my brand? How do I stand on a street corner selling to complete strangers who, that almost like door-to-door sale? That was before and after. I don't
Right.
know if
So
that's it, but
oh no, it is. It's basically there's a point that you go beyond the I can never go back. It's like, for instance, there was a point years ago that I had where when I moved to London, I was like, there is no way I can take a step down from this world for that time period of my life. Because for that time period, I was like, the man I am is made in the fires of what I do right now. And that was in my 20s until my 30s. And then when I turned 30, I lost my dad in my 30s. So that was another point of no return, like who I am, what I do, what I stand for. And there was
right.
another. So I had like my current point of no return is I want to travel the world a little bit more and have this business built while I do things, get myself out there because I know I'm effective. Just to give you guys an idea, we'll touch back on this in a second. Actually, I'm just going to drop a little linchpin here that I'm going to get Dal to ask me about in a second because it's a really cool idea.
Sure.
I just got a kick-ass testimonial from not just one customer, but like from one customer and his group. Like, it's insane. I'll post about it on Facebook later, but it was really funny because he doesn't use my name. He just says that guy, and it's funny. But going back to it, when you actually understand what your point of no return is, sorry, excuse me, what you do is you draw up like 10 little horizontal lines, sorry, vertical lines between the first and the last point. And each one of those horizontal, like those vertical lines that you just drew, is at one point a point of no return from where you went, what kicked my ass so hard I need to begin, to what is happening today. Because every point of no return at one point becomes a milestone in your story later on. It becomes a chapter in your life. So what you do is you look back at those last 10 chapters and you go, okay, so my girlfriend left me and that broke my heart. What was the next thing? I started to find like I was feeling upset and overweight. And how did I overcome that? Life has kicked me so hard. How did I go from there to like being the most healthiest human I could ever be, if that was the case? Or like from being bullied to being a millionaire, like what were the steps? And you just write down 10 big key events. It could be something as simple as like meeting a business owner, like doing this, whatever it is. And every step of those, like every in between, say steps 0 and 1, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, all the way up until 9 till present day. In between them, it's not like that was it. Like the switch happened because you decided that day. No, it started then. And
Right.
then many steps in between to get to the next point of no return. Like it's
Right.
basically charting your entire path.
Right.
And what you do, you just repeat the exact same thing between step 0 and step 1, where you go, okay, the first thing, the first big milestone was I got in shape. Okay, so I went from being fat, lazy, broke, and hating myself to just starting to get in shape and started reading books. What did I do in between that? What was the big things? Number 1, I watched a video. Number 2, I set a goal. Number 3, this. And then you get to the first big milestone. You're like, I achieved my body. And then what's the next big? And you create 10 more pieces of content. By the time you're done, you have essentially got 100 pieces of content and stories you can pull from. Now, let me ask you, if you have 100 stories to tell, are you ever going to run out of shit to talk about?
Yeah. No, never.
So now you've actually got that and you've curated these 100 stories specifically for your audience to actually be like, I can relate to this. There is a reason people relate to me saying, you know what, I feel fat and overweight, because people have felt that. I feel sluggish or whatever it is, people have felt that. I feel happy beyond belief, people have felt that. So people can relate to the stories I tell because they're rooted in human experience and emotion, the ones I've lived through, just like you have. You just have to talk about them. So like those would be the 3 big things I tell someone to actually go do as a way of actually bringing in clients. The 4th one is quite simply start asking people. And people don't do this enough. Ask for the sale, ask to get on a call, talk to people, ask them who they know that might be a good fit for the message and the service that you're.
Yeah, I love that. That's in my 7-step fast cash plan that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you or anyone be interested in result, or would you or anyone be interested in help?
Change that. I would recommend you change that. Would you or anyone, would you blank? And then I'd ask for the, would you know? Just say, who else do you know?
Okay.
Because the key wording is who else do you know is a psychological trigger, because I said, do you or anyone else need help with writing $1 million ad? And you might be like, I don't need the help, but would I know anyone that would do this? Maybe. What about Michael? He might be into it, but I don't really know what his situation is right now, blah, 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 blah. Whereas I said, who else do you know that will be interested in this? You're like, actually, you know what? Michael will be interested in this.
Hmm.
Because I'm taking away the would they be interested to they are interested. The
Hmm.
certainty becomes clear, the uncertainty leaves the room. So it becomes very powerful and becomes its own thing. So that's the thing to think about how you do it. So your words matter a lot and how.
Right. That's great. That's great advice. So what specific skills, talking about, you've danced around some strategies to use to help formulate your
Yeah.
story, get clear, but in terms of specific skills that people need to practice on an ongoing basis, do you recommend?
There are 3 skills I recommend everyone do. Number one, it's and I'm going to give the bigger versions. I'm going to tell you what to do in the middle. So number one is acquisition, like how to get people to talk to you, be around you, opt onto your mailing list, interact with you in any way, shape, or form. Number two is selling, know how to basically sell, whether it's like copywriting, marketing, putting your stuff out there. Basically have a system that gets people to give you money. And the third is retention. Do something so people can stay on board. Make sure customer service is so good that people do not want to leave because you are so good at what you deliver. Now, the beauty of what it is, and this kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier about like how being yourself is very important. My customer service could be better. Hands up, everyone knows this. I say, you know what? I want to create these insanely good programs, but I'm a perfectionist. I need to make sure that they're done
Right.
correctly because I don't want to put out shit. My audience suffers ever so slightly, but by the time they actually get to try the thing, they're like, holy crap, this is probably the greatest course you've ever gone through
Right.
around said subject. So the skills are practice how to get people on to talk to you. So marketing, get acquisition, basically get into the habit of selling, because selling is everything. It's really just conversation. It's just leading people down a path, and don't be a dick when people say no. If they say
Mhm.
no, you're like, cool, no worries. Have a great day. Maybe we can talk in the future. And if they're like, you know what, I'd never need your services, be like, that's okay. But if you ever think about me, give me a shout. How's your weekend going? What you got planned?
Mhm.
Just roll out of that sales script and go into a everyday script, because once people get to know you as a human being, they'll be dying to do business with you anyway. So given. And the customer service thing is be honest with your customers, tell them what's going on, tell them exactly what's happening in any way, shape, or form might actually help them get an influence of what there is. But more importantly, do everything you can to retain them without burning
Mhm.
your new customers. So a
Right.
lot of times people will actually put out an offer for new customers and acquisition, their existing.
Burning. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I've been with them forever. Why are they getting the good? Yeah, I know. I know companies that have done that. That's such a common mistake people make. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time it's to do with the systems, because the systems don't allow them to actually edit someone that's already within the system. Their system is built on just acquisition of new,
Yeah.
not reacquisition of old. And this is why continuity and yearly long programs work really well, is because you kept someone on because they want to know so much. So
Right.
if you want to be interesting, be interested in other people and go do interesting shit. Like that is the key thing, and people will follow you for that.
I love that. I love Adil. This is great. I wish we had more time. We're definitely going to have you come back
We're gonna
on.
have to do this again.
Yeah, we will. We will. We'll make it, especially now that our time zones are lined up. Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
Ooh, oh God. Okay, putting me on the spot here. Okay, dead easy on this one. You haven't asked me, but you should have asked me, would be what is a simple thing someone can do right now to actually see like numbers increase in their business? I'll tell you right now, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do right now for your business that'll be dead easy. So if you have a sales message, whatever it is, whether it's a sales letter, sales post, sales video, VSL, webinar, whatever it is, your key thing, remove as much fear as humanly possible.
Remove as much fear from the purchase. Yeah.
Yes. The way that you do this is tell an authentic story that allows people to know that you're actually going to be giving them something that actually is needed, and then tell them exactly, I don't know why it's giving me balloons, but you then that basically tell them, sorry, just like balloons came up on my screen, but then you basically tell them on the third step, the third thing is exactly how to buy or what comes next. Like you remove that fear from them. And in doing so, it completely negates any kind of situations they have that basically stand in their way. So that's number one. Number two is make sure you don't use pain too much. Think of it as the salted caramel principle. A little bit of salt goes a long way. Too much salt and it ruins the damn thing. So use the salted caramel principle. Salt is your pain. You want to flavor it. You don't want to overdo it so it becomes overpowering. And people go, oh, this is not exactly what I wanted. Also, painful customers buy a lot more initially, but they run away and lose retention, and acquisition becomes pointless because they're more likely to refund and they're more likely to fuck you over. Excuse my language. They're more.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah.
No, they're more
People
like
people doing business in desperation.
they
It's
will
a
fuck
it's
you over. And also, the other thing is, if you fuck up, because you're human, if you fuck up, they will come after you like You were
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster. Like I told you, I fucked up, but I've got like really good relations with my audience. So like when they actually email me, they get me and we have a really good time. So they're actually very forgiving of me when I make mistakes. But I've had my friends make mistakes with their businesses and they have lost tens of thousands of dollars in a single night. So that'd be it. And I guess the last thing I'd also say is knowing how to use distance control in your email, in your sales copy. So I'll go into the concept in the next episode that we do, which is quite simple. It's basically known as this, that, and it's. So actually, we can probably cover it right now in like the next 2 minutes. Think of it in 4 zones as if you were in combat sports, like you're in the MMA
Yep.
kick or in the boxing ring. Up close in the phone booth, that's zone 1. A punching distance, zone 2. Slightly out of punching distance, zone 3. Far away as humanly possible, zone 4. So you have those established, right? So from furthest to closest. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. If I said this sucks, which zone does that feel in between us?
It's closer because it's this. It's you're identifying something.
Right there, zone 1, right? You're right in its face. What if I said that sucks?
Okay, so you're further away.
Okay. What zone? 1,
Oh,
2,
I don't
3.
know. 2, 3.
Okay. What about it sucks?
I guess
See,
that's zone. Yeah, zone
that
4.
confuses everyone. Okay. Zone 4 and zone 2, weirdly, right? It's in between the two. It's in the middle of, but also it's the farthest one away because it sits in 2 zones. But so it goes, this sucks, it sucks, that sucks, it sucks. And the reason you have it that way is because whatever sucks, you want to basically keep it as an it or a that. So that's the reason why you failed. That's the reason why your wife left you. It's the reason why you can't get out of bed in the morning. This is how you do it. This is the purpose moving forward. This is the big benefit that you'll receive. You basically incorporate the
Oh,
benefit
that's
at a
powerful. I
close,
like that.
in a close area while negating the very, very negative to the furthest ones away. You essentially mentally create space for people to understand that your product is a benefit to them, not a pain. And you do it with a simple word change.
I love that. That's so powerful. Adil, if people want to learn more, where do they go to get in touch and find out?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Adil Amarsi, or you can hit up my website, greatestcopywriteralive.com. Join my mailing list. I do have an annual program in there, plus a lot more coming. So join it, let me know, reach out to me, and we'll happily have a chat. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in being mentored by me as a business owner or a copywriter, hit me up on Instagram. It'll be a lot easier for me to talk to you then.
So that's Adil, Adil Amarsi, Amarsi, Adil Amarsi. And the domain, is it the or just greatest? The greatest copywriter alive?
Oh, I've got both. I've got greatest and the greatest. So if you go to greatestcopywriteralive.com or the greatest copywriter alive, you'll get me. As an aside, and I know this is on video, so I can show you guys this. A mutual brother, Joss, actually sent his driver to pick me up at the airport when I arrived in Vietnam. Hopefully you got, wait, hold on, I'm gonna just switch my camera around so I can show you this because this is just so funny. Hold on. I know we gotta get good in a second.
You're good. I could see it. Hold it up again though.
Hold on. Oh, you're gonna see it properly because it's gonna be cool. So like I arrived at the airport and this is my branding I got.
The world's greatest copywriter. I love that. That's great.
What killed it was when because I only met Daniel like on Saturday.
Daniel's Joss's son, for those that don't know. I was there. I was there for.
Yeah, you were there for the birth.
Yeah.
I told her. Daniel graduated kindergarten today, essentially, so it was really cool. He's got main character energy as a 3-year-old. It's hilarious. He basically picks up the sign and then he's walking off, picks up the sign, comes back and just gives it to me to be like, yeah, you're the world's greatest copywriter. He literally hands it to me. So I'm like, even this freaking 3-year-old knows. It's amazing.
That's fantastic. Adil, it's always an honor and a pleasure. We're definitely going to have you come back. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with my audience. And I knowing you have your own following, your own direct reports, your own paying clients to take care of. You're on vacation. Thank you for coming and sharing with my followers and I so we can all do better.
I'm thankful to be here, man. Speak to you guys soon. Take care. Speak to you guys soon. Take care. Speak to you guys soon. Take care. Speak to you guys soon. Take care.